Greetings, families. Welcome back. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. This video is about Burkina Faso. As you can tell already, the government has sat and discussed to reform certain laws, certain things that is going on in the country. They said some laws are like so old and it's not working, so they have to reform everything, especially prison and also demarcation of the country, especially the city. They want the city to look a certain way. So they have allocated this job to some of the ministers to do their jobs. And they will be coming soon to tell us what they are doing and not telling us, show us what they are doing, as they always say. The prison is full, and the people that are supposed to be there, maybe many of them are not. According to the announcement, they want petty criminals to be doing communal labor. So when they are good, they will send them home and then put the rare criminals into the prison, keep them there. I mean, when I say rare criminals, you know what I mean. So yes, this is the announcement that the government has come up with. Families, please listen to more, and I'll be back. Credit to RTB News.
The Council adopted a draft bill on the administration of community service. As a reminder, community service was governed by a law of April 6, 2004, which in practice proved insufficient to address these difficulties and enable community service to be a reality. It has been necessary to reread it. Reforms have been undertaken to ensure that the justice system is credible, accessible, and responsive to the expectations of our populations. And we can't actually make reforms that meet this objective and leave out more about prison population. And as you know, today's prisons are full of people sentenced for X number of reasons. So to solve this problem, it was necessary to tackle the root cause of prison overcrowding. This overcrowding is reflected in our prisons because of the sentences. Nations. The community service sentence is designed to solve this problem, because it replaces the systematic imprisonment that keeps these people in our prisons. So, what are the major innovations of this law compared with those that already existed in 2004? It has to be said that, through this bill, which will certainly be forwarded to the Transitional Legislative Assembly, community service is now an independent penalty. With the defendant's consent, under the 2004 law, the accused had to give his or her consent for the community service sentence to be imposed. With this bill, there are no 2 feet consents. It is an autonomous sentence that could be imposed, like any other prison sentence. The second innovation is that there are a certain number of offenses for which community service will be systematically and automatically ordered by the judge, under certain conditions. Of course, these are linked to the dangerousness of the defendant, and of course to the disinterestedness of the plaintiff. We're talking about property offenses, for example. The civil party must be able to certify that it has been disinterested before the appeal is pronounced. Another innovation is that we have extended the list of companies that can take on people who have been sentenced to community service. Previously, this was the case exclusively public administration, but today, even private companies can effectively take on people sentenced to community service. So when the law is adopted, even people who are currently sentenced can apply for the benefit of this law, at the rate of 1 month's community service for every 3 months' imprisonment. So, as I say, this law will enable us to relieve congestion. Our prisons ensure that those who have done wrong and caused torment to society can actually do so, without mandating and finding a more effective social reintegration and effectively enabling this population, this workforce, to be used to support our country's development projects. The ministry in charge of urban planning has submitted the project to the Council of Ministers. A program called the Urban Development Program, and the Council approved this program and authorized the ministry to continue its development. So this program essentially aims to modernize our cities, to give them a different face. So it has a number of major components, the first of which concerns everything to do with the development of our cities. And unfortunately, as part of the progressive development of our cities, there has been a delay in terms of development. So everything to do with urban roads, sanitation, rainwater and the development of our city's sewerage networks. So the first main component will enable us to deal with this whole issue. The second component concerns the modernization and renovation of the historic heart of our towns and cities, and the older parts of our towns and cities. Naturally, this will be done in consultation with the ministry in charge of culture. And the third component also concerns everything to do with secondary towns, including extensive development in secondary towns, and also the whole area of governance, the development of tools for governance and urban planning. So the head of state, the president of Faso, has given instructions, his vision of what our cities should look like in the coming years. And this vision will naturally be set out in the preparation phase, in the development phase of this program, so alongside the other major programs being developed by the Ministry of Urban Planning, this program will also contribute to improving and developing Carmen, and changing its image in any case. Our main cities, and I think that today's authorization will enable us to pursue and develop the program and move towards mobilizing the funding for its implementation. A draft bill to combat money laundering and the financing of terrorism, as well as the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. It should be noted that this draft bill is in response to a directive issued by the European Union. The anti-money laundering and anti-terrorist financing measures introduced into Burkina Faso's legal system provide a legal framework for combating money laundering and terrorist financing. This system has introduced a number of innovations, notably the inclusion of all electronic transactions, because electronic transactions are also means of money laundering is also on the agenda, with the reinforcement of sanctions and the detection of all forms of terrorist financing, as well as the fight against money laundering. With these measures, Burkina Faso is reinforcing its efforts to combat the financing of terrorism and money laundering. It will also reinforce the measures in place to support Burkina's removal from the FATF's grey list, because close monitoring has been in place since 2021, and Burkina is working to get off this grey list. A number of efforts have been made, and we are continuing in this direction so that, by the end of 2024, we will be able to from the grey list and thus facilitate international transactions for the financial institutions of the document. The Council also adopted a preliminary draft bill on the rectifying finance law. It must be said that at the halfway point, the budget implementation situation was reviewed, and it emerged that action needed to be taken to take account of the situation. New initiatives have also been taken to address current issues. It should be noted that there were presidential initiatives for education and also for health and to finance this initiative. The budget was therefore opened up to take these initiatives into account. The new rectifying finance law will enable us to strengthen all aspects of social protection and also human capital, i.e. health and education, but we have also taken steps to support the country's industrialization. So what we've planned is an increase in revenue and a reduction in expenditure, but above all a better distribution to take into account. Health and education? With regard to the legislative changes that have been made, the main provision is an exemption for the production of locally produced flour from wheat, corn, sorghum and other cereals. The idea is to make the companies that produce these cereals locally much more competitive. And also, of course, to help strengthen the industrialization mechanisms in place following the agro-silvo-pastoral offensive currently underway. And it must also be said that to some technical actions that have been proposed at the level of the tax code and then everything that has been taken as measures for the production of urban housing permits as part of the special operation planned for real estate development have been taken into account in the measures, because initially it was a decree, but to reinforce its legal force, it has been included in the law, which will enable us to rectify the 2024 budget and move towards a budget that will enable us to achieve our objectives. Social objectives in terms of education, health, to say that in the mechanisms for modifying tax texts. No new taxes have been introduced. On the contrary, exemptions and measures to better control tax collection have been planned.
Families, you heard it all. Thank you so much for your time. These are some of the reform that the government has taken into places last night, and I decided to translate it and share it with all of us. They are all great, and I'm hoping they will implement it well, especially when it comes to the prison one, God bless you all, my kings and queens, my VIPs, my returning subscribers, families, my new ones. God bless you all. I appreciate your time and I'm so, so grateful. I will see you soon. God bless you. Bye bye.